Become a patron at www.patreon.com/Golden Era Bookworm for hard to find books, scans of rare photos and articles on the golden era of bodybuilding. Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here. Today I'd like to start a series of videos on silver era bodybuilding legend Leo Robert with a focus on Leo's favorite arm exercises. In an awesome article I recently read, Leo Robert not only describes his favorite exercises, but he goes into great detail as to when in his career he actually used these exercises and what he actually gained from them, which I really enjoyed, and I found that this information was very useful. And the information from this article will be shared with you today. As he puts it, quote, "Arm training has never ceased to fascinate me, and I am still greatly impressed by any feat of arm strength or any display of unusual arm development." And it is a favorite topic for most of us amateur and of course advanced bodybuilders. So I do hope that you enjoy this video and this new series on Leo Robert. So prior to listing Leo Robert's favorite arm exercises, I'd like to just give a brief introduction on this legendary bodybuilder. He was actually born in 1921 in Montreal, Canada, and he does describe that he didn't have that typical weakling to strongman story. Instead, at an early age, he was already weighing 140 pounds, and I mean, this guy was very short in stature, and he already had 14-inch arms. And he relates this to the strong foundation that he gained by working at the docks for several years as a youth, and therefore at his early youth he was already very strong and rugged. Leo Robert went on to compete in several IFBB tournaments in the late 40s, and by 1951 became the Mr. Canada in the IFBB tournament then. Later on becoming the NABBA Mr. Universe in 1951, firstly winning the short class and then the overall title. Here's an awesome shot of Leo Robert in his absolute prime. This is from Muscle Power, September 1952. Just look at those arms. I mean, they are just full and saturated. Looks phenomenal, doesn't it? Now within the article, Leo Robert lists certain principles that he follows for arm training. Besides the recommendation that he gives of training each exercise for 3 sets of 10 reps each, he does state something very interesting, that even though you may be choosing to specialize in arm training, that one should never neglect especially the lower body development, especially when it comes to arm training, because it gives overall power and strength. And as he puts it, from all the bodybuilders he ever met in the silver era, all had great power as well as great arm size. And so he does believe that training the legs actually does help in overall growth of the body, especially when you're and it should be especially practiced when you're specializing for arm development. Very interesting statement there, and it actually is something that Vince Gironda also stated later on, and of course he was also from the silver era. Very interesting. Something else that he puts is that the exercises that are listed are by no means supposed to be followed as a specialization course. To quote him, he says, "I have merely explained my favorite arm exercises, giving you the reason why I preferred certain exercises over others, and have tried to explain in this article to you when they will do you the most good. You are to pick out a few that serve your purpose best and should add these to your regular routine." And so what I really enjoyed about this article, as I said before, is that not only does he list certain exercises, but he describes when in his career he actually used them. For example, was it in the beginning of his career when he was an intermediate bodybuilder, an advanced bodybuilder, and why he thought these were the best for each particular phase of bodybuilding. And finally, he describes the results he obtained using each exercise, so that then the reader can apply it depending on which phase that they are in. It's a really awesome article. So here are the exercises now listed. So here we have Leo Robert's favorite biceps exercises, and of course the barbell curl, the basic 2-arm barbell curl, he recommends for beginners. And as he experienced, he got the most he got quite a lot of bulk by performing basic barbell curls as a beginner. and he states that his arms grew from 14 inches to 16 inches alone on just using the barbell curl, the basic barbell curl. However, he does also state that he never stopped using them, because later on, as he was a more advanced bodybuilder, he started actually training the barbell curl much more slowly, performing deliberate contractions and keeping the exercise movement very strict. And he did this to gain better muscularity and greater definition. So he basically recommends using the barbell curl throughout, at least he used it throughout his whole bodybuilding career. Now, between the beginner and intermediate phase, he actually started to then use the cheating curl. The cheating curl allowed him to use much heavier poundages, and his arms grew from 16 inches to almost 18 inches in size by incorporating the cheating curl in his intermediate phase. He did find, though, that because it had a limited range of motion, he wasn't getting that full round bicep, and so he started to incorporate again in his intermediate phase now, not just the cheating curl, but the standing one arm dumbbell curl, truly focusing each arm at a time. And then he found that he got a full round biceps development because of the increased range of motion. Finally, in his more advanced stages, he decided to now start getting more peak, and he began doing a dumbbell curl with his upper arm rested on an inclined bench, much like a preacher curl today. And he found that it gave him fantastic peak in his biceps. And finally, also in his more advanced phases of bodybuilding, he also began to practice a lot more posing, contracting the muscle that is the bicep, and really focusing on muscular control, and this really gave him greater definition and muscularity and peak. So these were the I guess the exercises that Leo Robert used throughout his career, and the effects that each exercise had during his different phases of bodybuilding. Now, in the second part of the article, Leo Robert describes his favorite triceps exercises, and he does mention that his triceps grew very, very quickly, although he still describes the exercises that he used for each phase. Like most beginners back then, they did calisthenics, and so he actually began by simply doing push-ups as a beginner. Back then, they were called floor dips. As he progressed towards an intermediate phase, he began to do of course, seated dumbbell presses and bench presses, which although work the shoulder and chest respectively, he also found that they had great effect on his triceps because they are compound movements that involve the extension of the arm. He also, of course, at that stage began to incorporate now parallel bar dips, body weight at first, and eventually started to increase the poundage by strapping poundage onto his feet. Actually, I'm assuming he used dumbbells or plates at the time and strapped them around his feet, or hooked them around his feet. And at a more advanced stage, he was using up to 100 pounds for repetitions on the parallel bar dip. That's pretty incredible. Now, he also found that as he became more advanced, he really had to slowly perform the dip, and he found that by performing a full range of motion and really coming up all the way up to the top, completely extending the arm, really started to have an effect on his triceps. It really allowed him to hit the tricep correctly. Of course, at the more advanced stage, he also began to isolate the triceps more, incorporating exercises such as the dumbbell kickback and lying triceps extension. Now, if you'd like to learn more about these Silver Era legends and how they develop their certain body parts, I highly recommend you get on my website, www.goldenerabookworm.com, where I have several books, including those of Steve Reeves that I've personally written. For example, how I developed my waist and how I developed broad shoulders, all available on my website, www.goldenerabookworm.com. So I hope you've enjoyed this short video on Leo Robert. I presented a very brief biography of this legendary bodybuilder because I did want to focus on the article of his favorite arm exercises, but I will talk more about him in the series to come on the legendary bodybuilder Leo Robert from Canada. He really was a powerhouse, short in stature, but had really full muscular development, very Herculean physique. Again, fantastic physiques from the Silver Era of bodybuilding. Once again, hope you've enjoyed watching the video. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't to the Golden Era Bookworm, leave me your comments, and thank you for watching. If you'd like to support my research and work, please donate via PayPal, or you can become a patron. You can also contact me if you want to pass on your magazines and books via email, or if you'd like, you can also get on my website www.goldenerabookworm.com for out-of-print books and courses on old school bodybuilding. Once again, hope you've enjoyed watching the video. This is the Golden Era Bookworm. Bye for now. And for an entertaining look at the history of bodybuilding's supplement industry, I would highly recommend watching Subs the Movie, which I have collaborated in, available at Amazon Prime and Vimeo.
Hi everybody, I just want to recommend this phenomenal book, Vince's Secret Locker, volume number 2 by Carl Coyne. I've been looking at this for about 4 weeks and I can't put it down. If you get a chance, check it out. He also has a part 1 that I highly recommend also. Vince was the trainer to the stars and had an amazing, interesting gym that today there's still not equipment like it around. It was all made out of wood. He'll be on our radio show coming up probably in the next couple weeks or so. Have a great day, and again, highly recommend this book.